The rejection. The Galactic Council was the most powerful organization in the galaxy. They controlled countless worlds, civilizations, and species, all bound together under their rule. For centuries, they had made the decisions, determined who could join the greater galaxy, and shaped the course of history. No one questioned them, until humanity arrived. At first, humans were seen as just another species, primitive and unimportant. They were a young race, with little advanced technology compared to the other members of the Council. Earth was an isolated planet, surrounded by nothing but a vast and endless void. Yet humanity had managed to reach the stars, and that caught the attention of the Council. They were curious, but they were also dismissive. Earth was just a small, insignificant place. Who were they to challenge the great civilizations of the galaxy? The Council's decision was swift and harsh. Earth would not be welcomed into the Galactic Federation. No official communication, no treaties, no recognition. Humanity was cast out, left to fend for themselves, dismissed as not worthy of joining the greater galactic community. The Council's leaders thought that without their protection and resources, humans would remain weak, their progress stunted, their ambitions crushed. But they were wrong. The humans, in their pride and determination, would not accept rejection. They would not go quietly into the shadows of the galaxy. If the Council thought humanity could be ignored, they would soon find out just how wrong they were. The rejection lit a fire inside every human on Earth. It was not the end. It was only the beginning. As the humans received the news of their rejection, their leaders gathered in secret meetings. They knew they could not survive alone in the vastness of space, but they also understood that the Council's mistake could be their greatest opportunity. Instead of being crushed by the weight of rejection, they would rise. They would show the galaxy their true strength, a strength that no one had expected. They would build something far greater than the Council ever imagined. General Olivia Hayes, a military leader who had fought in the Earth Alliance, stepped forward to take charge. She was determined, smart, and relentless. She had seen firsthand the Council's arrogance. They thought Earth would crumble without them, but they didn't understand humanity's drive. Humanity's will was stronger than any galactic empire, and General Hayes knew it. She began to gather the best minds of humanity: scientists, engineers, strategists, and leaders, everyone who had the courage to stand against the Council's decision. They worked in secret, creating plans that would transform Earth into the heart of a new empire. They were not just going to survive, they were going to thrive. They would build a fleet like no other, a force powerful enough to rival any civilization in the galaxy. It started with simple ideas, but those ideas grew quickly. Earth's scientists, using their ingenuity, began to develop technologies that the galaxy had never seen. Ships that could travel faster than light, weapons that could obliterate entire fleets in seconds, and shields strong enough to withstand any attack. These were not just the dreams of Earth's brightest minds. They were becoming a reality. The Council, however, was blind to what was happening. They had turned their back on humanity, and they believed their power would remain unchallenged. They were comfortable in their control. They didn't see the growing threat on the horizon, and even if they had, they likely would have dismissed it. After all, who could stand against the might of the Galactic Council? Who could stand against the combined power of 1,000 civilizations? But what the Council didn't understand was that humanity had something they didn't: resilience. The rejection from the Council did not break Earth, it strengthened it. The humans had been cast aside, but they had learned something. They had learned how to build from the ground up, how to turn adversity into strength, and how to create something even greater than what the galaxy had ever seen. As the plans for humanity's new fleet and empire continued, Earth's people worked tirelessly. The quiet whispers of a new power began to spread across the galaxy. Some worlds watched with interest, others were skeptical. But one thing became clear: humanity was no longer the insignificant species the Council had dismissed. They had become a force to be reckoned with. And soon, The time would come when the galaxy would realize just how big a mistake they had made in rejecting humanity. Earth was no longer alone, and the humans were no longer weak. They had learned the hard way that rejection did not mean defeat. It only meant that humanity would have to carve its own path, one that would shake the stars themselves. The Council had cast Earth out, thinking it would break humanity's spirit, but instead they had made humanity stronger. The rejection had sparked something deep inside the hearts of every human, and that spark would soon grow into an inferno. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but Earth did, and Earth was ready. After the rejection by the Galactic Council, humanity was left to face a future that had once seemed hopeless. They had been told they were unworthy, unfit to be part of the greater galactic community. Yet in the face of this rejection, humanity's spirit did not break. It only grew stronger. The people of Earth, united by the need to survive and thrive, knew they had to take matters into their own hands. General Olivia Hayes, who had taken command in the aftermath of the Council's decision, stood before a room full of Earth's brightest minds. They had gathered to discuss a plan that would change everything. They weren't just going to survive. They were going to build an empire. An empire that would not only survive, but one that would make the galaxy sit up and take notice. The first step was to create a fleet that would rival the greatest empires in the galaxy. It was no easy task. Earth had been left with no allies, no resources, and no advanced technology to speak of. But the people of Earth were not afraid of hard work. They were used to fighting against the odds. They had fought wars, faced natural disasters, and battled their own limitations. Now, they had to do the same against the galaxy. They began by gathering the brightest engineers, scientists, and strategists. Together, they would forge new technologies. They would reverse engineer the few scraps of alien tech they had managed to salvage in their early space missions. They would learn from their mistakes and from the mistakes of others. The engineers worked day and night, creating new weapons, stronger shields, faster engines. They designed ships that could move at incredible speeds and were equipped with weapons that could obliterate entire fleets. The first ship, named the Vanguard, was humanity's most ambitious creation. It was built in secret, far from the eyes of the galaxy. The Vanguard was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance. It was a weapon designed not only to protect Earth, but to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in a way that no one could ignore. The ship was enormous, its hull covered with layers of armor stronger than anything humanity had ever known. Its weapons were capable of firing energy blasts that could tear through the shields of the most advanced ships. But the true strength of the Vanguard lay in its engines. It could travel faster than any ship the galaxy had ever seen, giving it the ability to strike anywhere before anyone could react. As the ship took shape, so did the fleet. It wasn't just a single ship, it was the beginning of something much larger. Humanity's fleet would be built in secret, far beyond the Council's reach. The galaxy was unaware of the work being done on Earth, and the Council, in their arrogance, didn't even see it coming. They thought humanity was nothing more than a blip easily ignored. They had no idea that Earth was already preparing to challenge their dominance. As the days passed, the work continued. The fleet grew, and more ships were built. Each one was a testament to humanity's ingenuity. The people of Earth worked tirelessly, driven by a single goal: to make the galaxy understand that they were wrong about humanity. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now it was time to show them what that spirit could accomplish. But as the fleet took shape, General Hayes knew they couldn't just rely on their technology. They needed soldiers, warriors who could fight and defend the fleet when the time came. So Earth's military began to recruit the best and brightest from across the planet. They trained soldiers in the art of space combat, teaching them how to fight in zero gravity, how to operate the complex technology of the ships, and how to defend their home. The humans were not born with the same natural abilities as some of the galaxy's more advanced species, but they had something better: adaptability. They could learn and improve faster than anyone else, They had always been the underdogs, fighting against the odds, and now they were learning how to fight on the grandest stage of all, the stars. As the fleet grew, so did their power. The new ships, now fully operational, were ready for their first test. Humanity had not just built a fleet, they had built a force that could rival the greatest military powers in the galaxy. And soon, it would be time to test that power. But there was still one problem. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity was still an unknown force, still seen as a small, insignificant planet that had been cast aside. No one knew how close they were to having a fleet capable of taking on the Council. No one understood the determination driving every human who worked on those ships. General Hayes stood before her fleet, her heart filled with determination. The Council had made a mistake, and humanity was about to make sure they knew it. But they had to be careful. They had to be patient. The time would come, and when it did, humanity would be ready. The rebuilding was complete. Now, the time for action had come. The human fleet was ready to take to the stars, to show the galaxy that their rejection had been the greatest mistake they could ever make. And Earth's warriors, the men and women who had been forged in the fire of rejection, were ready to fight. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity was no longer the weak, insignificant species they had once thought. Humanity was ready to rule, ready to forge an empire that would shake the stars. And no one, not even the Galactic Council, could stand in their way. The human fleet, now complete and battle-ready, sat silent in the shadows of the distant asteroid belt. It was here, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council, that Earth's greatest secret was waiting to be unleashed. The fleet was vast, its ships glowing faintly against the backdrop of deep space, their engines humming with power, ready to surge into action. The time for patience was over. General Olivia Hayes, standing at the helm of the Vanguard, knew this moment would change everything. The Galactic Council, oblivious to humanity's plans, continued to rule the galaxy with their typical arrogance. They saw Earth's rejection as a victory, a triumph of their power. They had believed that by casting humanity out, they would stamp out the threat once and for all. But they had failed to understand one thing. Humanity never gave up. And now, they would face the consequences of their mistake. General Hayes stood before the command center, her expression hard as steel. All ships, prepare for the jump. Our first target is the Eridan system, the heart of the Galactic Council's influence in this quadrant. Her voice rang with authority, and the crew responded with swift precision. The time had come to make their mark. The ships were ready, but it wasn't just the firepower that made them powerful, it was the element of surprise. The fleet had been carefully hidden, designed to be undetectable by the advanced sensors of the Council. Humanity had spent years perfecting stealth technology, learning from every failed attempt, every flaw in their designs. Now they had a fleet that could slip past even the most sophisticated defense systems undetected. As the ships powered up and prepared to make the jump to hyperspace, a heavy silence filled the command center. This was not just another military operation. This was the beginning of something far greater. This was the moment that humanity would announce to the galaxy that they were no longer the outcasts. They were a force to be reckoned with. The jump was executed flawlessly, and within moments, the fleet had emerged from hyperspace in the heart of the Eridan system. The stars shone brightly around them, but there was no sign of the Council's ships. The humans had arrived unchallenged, silent and unseen. It was the perfect beginning to their mission. But General Hayes knew that the success of this strike would not come from merely surprising the Council. It was about sending a message that would echo throughout the galaxy, making it clear that humanity was no longer weak or insignificant. They had built a fleet that could rival any power in the galaxy, and they were ready to use it. The Vanguard was the flagship, its weapons poised for action. Its hull, a shining testament to humanity's resolve, stood ready to unleash destruction upon the unsuspecting Council. The General's eyes narrowed as she gave the order. Target the Council's relay stations. They must know we're here. Fire when ready. The first shots rang out like thunder across the stars, piercing the void. The energy blasts from the vanguard struck with deadly accuracy, tearing through the weak defenses of the relay stations. The explosions lit up the darkness like fireworks, sending shockwaves through the system. Within minutes, the stations were destroyed, their once pristine structures now reduced to floating debris. The fleet moved swiftly, a calculated and relentless force. As the stations fell, so did the sense of security the Council had taken for granted. They had believed that they controlled the galaxy. Now, they were beginning to understand that Earth was no longer under their thumb. But humanity's message was not finished. General Hayes gave the signal to deploy the remaining ships, each one targeting a different Council stronghold. It wasn't just about striking a blow. It was about taking control. The fleet moved like a storm, sweeping across the system with precision and power. Each ship fired its weapons, systematically dismantling the infrastructure of the Council's influence. The shockwaves rippled through the galaxy. The Council was unprepared for the sudden and overwhelming force. The people of Earth were showing them that they were not only capable of surviving, they were capable of dominating. However, the Council wasn't going to take this lying down. As the human fleet continued its assault, the Council's response came swiftly. Reinforcements, large fleets of warships, began to emerge from nearby sectors. They were angry, confused, and desperate to protect their authority. The fleet was not without its own risks. As the Council's ships advanced, General Hayes knew that this was only the beginning. The enemy had more power, more ships, and more weapons than humanity had yet faced. But she also knew that they had something the Council didn't: the element of surprise, the drive to fight, and the will to win. It was these qualities that had made humanity who they were, and it was these qualities that would see them through to victory. "We will not stop here," General Hayes muttered to herself, her fingers gripping the command console. "This is only the first step. They have no idea what's coming next." The battle in the Eridan system was far from over, but the first strike had been made. The galaxy now had a new enemy to fear, a humanity that was no longer bound by the will of others, a humanity that was ready to fight for its place in the stars. The Council would soon learn the truth. Earth was no longer the weak, forgotten planet they had cast aside. It had become a force capable of shaking the very foundations of the galaxy. The shockwaves from the Eridan system's destruction were still rippling through the galaxy when the Galactic Council's response finally arrived. The Council had underestimated humanity's resolve, but they would not make that mistake again. Now, every ship in the fleet was on high alert, and every soldier was prepared for the inevitable counterattack. The first strike had been successful, but it was only the beginning. Humanity had shaken the galaxy, and now, the Council would try to retaliate with everything they had. General Olivia Hayes stood at the command center of the vanguard, her eyes scanning the star maps on the display. The fleet had moved swiftly from the Eridan system, striking multiple Council strongholds in a matter of hours. It was a brutal campaign of precision strikes, each one designed to cripple the Council's communications and infrastructure. But now, with the Council in full retreat, it was time to face the real challenge. The Council was calling for reinforcements. Humanity had just made the most dangerous enemies in the galaxy. "General, incoming transmission," said the comms officer. He looked up at her, concern in his eyes. "It's from the Council." "Put it through," Hayes ordered. She stood tall, her posture unwavering. The Council's threats meant little to her now. They had already made the first move. Now it was humanity's turn to take control. The screen flickered to life, and the cold, dispassionate face of a Council leader appeared. His eyes narrowed as he looked directly at the human general. "Olivia Hayes," the leader began, his voice dripping with disdain. "You have made a grave mistake. The Galactic Council is not something to be trifled with. You have no idea what you have awakened." The general's expression remained stoic. "You should have thought about that before casting us out," she replied coldly. "Now you'll learn that we won't back down." Not now. Not ever. The council leader's face twisted in anger. You may think you have power, but you are nothing but a fleeting spark in a galaxy of stars. Prepare yourselves. You will face our full wrath. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only the echo of the leader's words hanging in the air. General Hayes remained silent for a moment, her gaze fixed on the empty screen. She had expected nothing less. The council had always been a bully, hiding behind their overwhelming power. But now, the situation had changed. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They had strength, unity, and an unwavering determination to succeed. "Ready the fleet," she said, her voice firm. "We're going to make them regret their threats." As the fleet prepared to move, Hayes knew the battle ahead would be unlike any other. The Council's response would be swift and brutal, but humanity's resolve was stronger. Earth had been cast aside, humiliated and belittled, but it had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever before. Now the galaxy would know that humans could no longer be ignored. The fleet was poised for action. The ships lined up, ready to leap into hyperspace and engage the Council's forces head-on. Each ship was more than just a vessel. It was a symbol of humanity's spirit, forged through years of adversity, and now it would be tested in the heat of battle. The battle lines were drawn. But as the fleet prepared to jump, a new and unexpected force emerged from the depths of the galaxy. A wave of darkness appeared on the edges of the star system. General Hayes's heart skipped a beat as she watched the incoming ships appear on the sensors. These were not Council ships. These were something else, something far more dangerous. "Alert! Unknown fleet detected," shouted one of the officers. The tension in the command center was palpable. What were these ships? How had they gotten so close without being detected? They were massive. Massive enough to rival the strength of the entire human fleet. The Council may have been angry, but they weren't the only threat humanity had to face. "General, we need to act quickly," said the tactical officer, his voice urgent. "If we engage these unknown ships, we risk splitting our forces. But if we don't, they may overwhelm us." Hayes took a deep breath, her mind working through the possibilities. The unknown fleet was a wild card, an unknown factor that could completely change the course of this war. But it was too late to retreat now. There was no turning back. Humanity had already made its presence known, and they would not run from a fight. "Divert half the fleet to intercept the unknown ships," she ordered, her voice steady. "We'll take the rest and finish the Council's forces. We need to show them that we are in control." The fleet broke into two groups, one heading towards the unknown enemy, while the other pressed forward to face the Council's reinforcements. The unknown ships were vast, their forms looming ominously on the horizon. But Hayes had no intention of letting fear take root. She trusted her fleet. She trusted humanity's will to survive. The first shots were fired, and the battle was joined. It was a chaotic clash of metal and fire as the unknown ships and the human fleet collided. The unknown forces were incredibly advanced, their ships brimming with technology that was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. But despite their technological superiority, the humans fought with a fury born of years of being cast aside, of being underestimated. Every shot fired, every enemy ship destroyed, was a reminder to the galaxy that humanity would never back down. They were no longer the outcasts. They were the ones to fear. The unknown ships proved to be formidable, but the humans were relentless. And as the battle raged on, one thing became clear. The rising storm that humanity had begun was far from over. The Galactic Council would have to contend not just with humanity, but with whatever force had emerged from the shadows to challenge them. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of it all. The battle raged on in the darkness of space, and the once clear skies were now filled with the chaos of war. Humanity's fleet clashed with the unknown enemy, whose ships were massive and unlike anything the humans had ever faced. Their technology seemed far more advanced, and their tactics were eerily precise. But even in the face of this mysterious force, the humans fought on, unyielding in their determination. General Olivia Hayes stood at the heart of the command center on the Vanguard, watching as the battle unfolded. Her face was set, her mind focused on the task at hand. Her fleet was engaged in a brutal conflict on one front, while the other half of her ships continued to press against the Council's forces. It was a war on two fronts, and she had to make every decision count. "General, we've sustained significant damage to the outer hulls," the chief engineer reported, his voice filled with urgency. "We can't hold out much longer against this unknown enemy." Hayes nodded, her jaw tightening. The unknown fleet was a force unlike any they had encountered before. Their ships seemed to phase in and out of existence, using some kind of cloaking technology that made them difficult to track. Even their weapons were strange. Beam-based energy blasts that cut through the human ships with frightening precision. "How long until we can break through their line?" she asked, her voice calm, though her mind raced with calculations. "We're still holding strong, but it's only a matter of time before they break our defenses," the officer replied. "We need reinforcements. We can't keep this up alone." "Then we'll make do with what we have," Hayes said firmly. "Send out a distress signal to the rest of the fleet. We need backup, but we can't wait. Prepare to make a push. We're going to turn this around." In the face of overwhelming odds, Hayes knew there was no option but to fight. If humanity was to survive, it had to show the galaxy that it was not just a group of desperate refugees, but a power to be reckoned with. She would not let these unknown ships stand in their way. As the Vanguard surged forward, its weapons blazing, Hayes watched the unknown ships carefully. They seemed to anticipate every move her fleet made, dodging and weaving with unnatural precision. It was as if they knew their next move before it even happened. "We need to figure out what makes them tick," Hayes muttered, her eyes narrowing. She knew that defeating the unknown enemy would require more than just raw firepower. They needed intelligence, a way to outsmart their foe. "General," one of her officers interrupted, "we've intercepted a communication from the enemy." Hayes's attention snapped to the officer, her mind already racing. A communication from the enemy. This was new. The unknown fleet had shown no signs of communication before. It was a tactic humanity had relied on for years, using communications to gather intel, to learn their enemies' plans. Now it seemed they were getting a chance to listen in. "Patch it through," Hayes ordered. The room fell silent as the transmission flickered to life. The voice on the other end was deep and calm, with a strange echoing quality that made it sound distant. "Humanity," the voice said, "you have chosen the wrong side. The galaxy is vast, and there are forces far beyond your understanding. You are insects in the eyes of the true power." Hayes clenched her fists. She knew this voice. It was not a member of the Council, but something else. Something far older, far more dangerous. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the question. "We are the HFY," the voice responded. "We have watched your species grow, and we have judged you. You are a threat, and we will not allow you to disrupt the order of the galaxy." The transmission abruptly ended, leaving only the heavy silence that followed. The room was tense as every officer processed what had just been said. The HFY. The name meant nothing to them, but the fear it carried was unmistakable. The galaxy was filled with mysteries, but this was something new, a threat that humanity had never encountered before. "General," one of the officers said slowly, his voice filled with uncertainty. "What should we do? We're already stretched thin between the Council and this new enemy." Hayes took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising storm of doubt in her own mind. She had led humanity through difficult challenges before, but this was something different. The HFY were unlike any foe she had ever faced. Their power, their knowledge, it all seemed incomprehensible. "We fight," Hayes said, her voice firm. "We do what we do best. We survive. We adapt. And we take the fight to them." As the human fleet continued to press forward, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer fighting just for survival against the Council. They were now fighting a force that had the potential to wipe them from the galaxy entirely. And yet, despite the odds, General Hayes and her fleet remained resolute. The war had just taken a darker turn. The Steri were no longer just a mysterious enemy. They were a force that would test humanity like never before. But as humanity fought on, it was clear that their resolve was stronger than ever. They had been cast aside, underestimated, and rejected, but they had come too far to back down now. The unknown enemy may have appeared from the shadows, but humanity's light would not be extinguished so easily. The war had reached a fever pitch. Humanity's fleet, battered and broken, was still fighting fiercely against the Steri, a race of beings whose power seemed limitless. The unknown enemy had a technology that allowed them to manipulate space itself, creating wormholes and bending light, making their ships almost impossible to track. But despite the overwhelming odds, the humans were determined to press on. General Olivia Hayes stood at the heart of the command center on the Vanguard, her mind sharp and her eyes scanning the screen. The battle had taken a new turn. The Steri had made a dangerous move, advancing deeper into human-controlled space. But this time, it wasn't just about holding the line. It was about finding a way to strike back. "We've lost contact with the outer fleet," one of her officers reported, her voice tense. "They're not responding." Hayes clenched her fists, her gaze unwavering. The Steri had found their weakness: communication. The humans' reliance on relays and satellites had made them vulnerable. And now, their outer fleet had been cut off, isolated in enemy territory. It was a dangerous blow, but Hayes was not the type to back down. "We need to regroup," she said firmly. "Prepare a rescue mission. We can't afford to lose our outer fleet. They are the key to holding this position." The officers around her nodded, though their expressions were filled with doubt. The Steri were ruthless. Their ships could phase in and out of existence, appearing in one place and then disappearing in the blink of an eye. No one had ever faced a force like this before. But Hayes wasn't ready to give up. Not when humanity's future was at stake. "We've got one shot," Hayes continued, her voice calm but resolute. "If we can hit their command ship, we can disrupt their operations. We've studied their patterns, and we've found a vulnerability. We don't have much time, but if we strike fast enough, we can change the tide." As the crew rallied behind her, the human fleet began to mobilize. The Vanguard and its allies pushed forward, carving a path through the enemy forces. The battle was brutal, and the Steri retaliated with terrifying precision, but Hayes remained focused. She knew that if they didn't act now, all would be lost. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Jason Klein, commanding the Thunderstrike, one of humanity's most powerful warships, steered his ship into the heart of enemy territory. His crew worked in unison, launching a barrage of missiles toward the Steri forces. For a moment, the sky was filled with blinding light, and the earth-shaking explosions echoed through space. The Steri ships recoiled as the missiles hit their shields, but the human fleet wasn't done. "Now's our chance," Hayes shouted. "Deploy the special units. We've got to hit their command ship before they regroup." With a precise coordination that only years of training could accomplish, the human fleet released their most advanced weapons, energy disruptors designed to target the heart of the Steri fleet. These weapons, developed by the best minds on Earth, were the key to the human survival. They had never been tested in battle, but now was the time. As the disruptors streaked through the void of space, a massive explosion tore through the heart of the Steri command ship. It was the break humanity needed. For the first time in weeks, the Steri seemed to falter, their ships hesitating in the wake of the powerful blast. "General, we've hit their command ship," an officer called out. "They're losing control of their forces." A wave of hope washed over the command center. This was the moment they had been waiting for. With their most powerful ship weakened, the Steri were no longer the unstoppable force they had once seemed. But Hayes knew this was just the beginning. The Steri would not be easily defeated. They would regroup, they would adapt, and they would return with even greater fury. "We've got them on the ropes," Hayes said, her voice steady. "But we cannot stop now. We push forward. We finish this." The human fleet surged forward with renewed strength, their resolve harder than ever. They had taken the first step toward victory, but the road ahead was still filled with danger. The Steri would fight to the last, but humanity had proven that they could fight back. Hayes looked out at the stars, her heart filled with determination. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They had been cast aside, shunned by the Galactic Council, but they had fought back. They had built something stronger than anyone had ever imagined. And now, humanity was on the verge of proving that they were more than just survivors. They were a force that could shape the destiny of the stars. Humanity had made it this far. They had been cast aside by the Galactic Council, thrown into the dark corners of space, and left to fend for themselves. But they had survived. They had fought. And now they were standing on the edge of victory. The Steri forces, once seemingly invincible, were weakening. The humans had struck a decisive blow, but the war was far from over. General Olivia Hayes stood in the command center aboard the Vanguard, her eyes fixed on the holomap displaying the remaining Steri fleets. The Steri had retreated, but only temporarily. They were regrouping, preparing for one final assault. Hayes knew that this next battle would decide the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The Steri would either destroy them, or humanity would emerge as the new dominant force in the stars. "We can't let them recover," Hayes said, her voice firm. "They've been regrouping long enough. It's time to finish this." The fleet had been restructured after the recent victory, and now it was ready. The Vanguard, along with its allies, had been reinforced with new technologies and weapons designed specifically to counter the Steri's abilities. Humanity's ingenuity had proven to be their greatest strength, and now it was their turn to unleash everything they had. As the fleet moved out, Captain Jason Klein aboard the Thunderstrike led the charge, his ship the spearhead of the assault. With weapons primed and a crew ready for the final push, he transmitted the order. "All ships, move out. We take the fight to their doorstep." The human fleet surged forward, entering the heart of Steri-controlled space. The enemy ships, large and imposing, loomed ahead, their ominous presence a reminder of the battle humanity had fought to survive. But now, the humans were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. The first wave of Steri ships met the human fleet in a thunderous clash. Explosions lit up the vast expanse of space as missiles and energy blasts filled the void. The human ships fought with determination, using their newly developed weapons to target the Steri's weak points. Every strike was precise, every maneuver calculated. The battle was fierce, but humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. "Target their command ship," Hayes ordered, her voice unwavering. "That's their heart. If we destroy it, the rest will fall." With a wave of destruction in their wake, the human fleet focused their fire on the Steri flagship. The massive ship, once a symbol of the Steri's power, was now their greatest vulnerability. It was the nerve center of the entire fleet, and without it, the Steri forces would crumble. As the human fleet continued to strike, the Vanguard took a position above the flagship, unleashing a barrage of energy beams directly at the ship's core. The Steri retaliated with everything they had, their weapons nearly overwhelming the human ships. But the humans pushed forward, unyielding. Each blast from their ships was a testament to their resolve, each shot fired with the knowledge that victory was within their grasp. The battle raged on for hours, the tide shifting as both sides suffered heavy losses. But the Steri were finally starting to show signs of weakness. The constant attacks on their flagship had taken a toll, and their defensive systems were failing. The human fleet pressed on, the sounds of battle echoing in every ship. Finally, with a resounding explosion, the Steri flagship was torn apart. The shockwave sent ripples through the remaining enemy ships, and their coordination began to fall apart. The human fleet took full advantage, pressing the attack with everything they had. In a matter of moments, the Steri forces were in disarray, retreating in every direction. The battle was over. Humanity had won. Hayes stood on the bridge, her heart pounding in her chest as she watched the Steri fleet disintegrate before her eyes. The war had been brutal, but now it was finally over. The Steri had been defeated, their hold on the galaxy broken, and humanity had emerged victorious. "This is our moment," Hayes said, her voice filled with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "The stars belong to us now." As the human fleet began to regroup and return to their newfound territories, the Galactic Council, once the governing body of the stars, would soon learn the full extent of humanity's power. The rejection they had dealt humanity had backfired. The once shunned humans were now the rulers of their own empire, stronger than ever, with a legacy that would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had been cast out, but in the end, they had forged an empire that shook the stars.